Hello everyone, and a very good morning or afternoon depending on where you're joining us from. Thank you very much for coming along to this webinar introducing the Responsible Conduct of Research Impact Collaboration. We should be taking about 45 minutes of your time today, including an opportunity for a designated question and answer session at the end. So firstly, just a couple of introductions. That's me, Sarah Vaughan, on the right-hand side. I work for Epigeum. We're the organization that put together the online courses, and I look after the webinars. A large part of my role is looking after our collaboration and implementation workshops, as well as our product launches and online events such as this. I'll let Brian in the middle and Professor Steneck on the far left introduce themselves now.
Hello, my name is Brian Fletcher. I'm the Publishing Director and also the Director for Implementation here at Epigeum.
And I'm Nick Steneck, talking to you from Ann Arbor, Michigan. And I'm the Impact Lead Advisor and the Research Integrity Lead Advisor.
So now just a quick look at the agenda before we get started. First we'll look at Epigeum itself. We're the organization that puts together the programs through a collaborative model. I'll give you a bit more information about the company, our history, and where we are now. Then Nick will cover some of the challenges that are currently facing responsible conduct of research training, provide an overview of responsible conduct of research plus impact initiative, and Brian will also do a demonstration. After this, Brian will give you an overview of the impact system and implementation models. We will then wrap up with a question and answer session. So a little bit about Epigeum. We were founded in 2005 as a spin-out originally from Imperial College London. Our two founders created the company in response to what they felt was a lack of timely support for researchers. One of our founders was doing a PhD at the time while working full-time, and he came across issues that he wanted and needed to be advised on. And it would either be that there would be a face-to-face course in 3 months' time that was being offered, or that there was inadequate or boring material online that didn't quite fit what he needed. So he saw this as an opportunity to work with universities to create supported materials for researchers, particularly PhD students and postdocs like himself. And that's where we started, in this sort of research arena within higher education. In the 10 years since, we have expanded to studying programs, courses for students, and teaching programs for staff as well. We were acquired by Oxford University Press in May of this year. Oxford University Press are actually a division of Oxford University, so we're still within the not-for-profit organisation in a higher education context and still very much focused on creating high-quality materials. To date, in the decade since we have been formed, we have created over 78 online courses across 12 different programs. So we're an increasingly globally focused organisation and have worked with over 260 universities across 29 different countries worldwide to date. We've worked with many in the United States as well, and this is just a map to show you what countries we have been involved with in the development of our courses. So hopefully that's given you a bit of background to Epigeum, and me or Brian will be happy to take any questions on the company. But for now, I'll hand over to Nick, who will talk to you about some of the challenges currently facing responsible conduct of research. Over to you, Nick.
Good afternoon, good early afternoon in Ann Arbor, Michigan. We're still in the middle of fall here, having an unusually warm fall. It's really a pleasure to see so many people, or not see, but to have so many people online as we get very near to launch the Impact program. I'm overseeing Impact for not only the RCR course, but for other courses that we're building this into. But I'll talk today primarily about the Impact program. Let me start with just a few basics. What is the responsible conduct of research? Well, I think we all know that it begins with responsible researchers, and those are researchers who know their responsibilities and act responsibly. So the question is, how does a university promote and assure responsible conduct of research? And I think that's what all universities and researchers and professional organizations are grappling with today, as there's more and more talk about irresponsible conduct in research. It's been agreed for a long time that training is important. The University of Michigan actually wrote a very early report on this over 30 years ago, saying we need to do more on training. And some training is now actually required by the National Institutes of Health and the National Science Foundation, and the National Institutes of Health adds requirements for human subjects protections and conflicts of interest. So there is widespread recognition that training is important, And the common approaches are web-based content courses. That's probably the primary way. In-person training in response to the NIH requirement. And then universities have adopted a wide variety of other approaches depending on the resources they have, the number of researchers they have, and so on and so forth. But online training remains probably the largest source of training materials for responsible conduct of research. So is the current RCR training effective? Do researchers know and actually understand their responsibilities? Do they accept responsibility for what they do? Can universities and research institutions answer these questions? In my experience talking with universities all over the world, when I ask that question, two questions: are you providing training? The answer usually is, or very often is, yes. And is it working? The answer is, well, I really don't know. And I'll give you an example from a recent seminar of how difficult this is. This is a class I recently taught. It was a class in which there were 20 graduate students and some faculty participants. And I asked them a series of questions and had them respond whether they were very confident or not at all confident they knew the answers. And they were reporting research misconduct, responding to QRP, disclosing and managing conflict of interest, conducting human subjects research, and so on and so forth. So these are 20 graduate students at a major university. They have all had and passed RCR training. And when you ask them, are they confident, overwhelmingly they come up with they're very confident or confident that they know the basic requirements for these 8 areas. The question is, do they actually know it? And I asked these questions online, but then when I went into the course, this is the response. None actually knew what the definition of research misconduct was. None actually knew how to report it. A few did know about conflict of interest. A few more knew about human subjects research. They were most knowledgeable about animal research because this was a bunch of basic scientists, and the rest were some, and some. So even though we're providing training, it's clear that we're not getting across the information that we need to get across. So the objectives of the impact program are to provide and to certify training. And I'll explain to you in a bit what I mean by certify training, but to do some check to make sure that the training is working, and to provide universities with the insights into climate and behavior of their researchers based on institutional data, so that you have some idea what the climate is and the behavior is of your researchers. A very quick overview and a comparison of what we're trying to do in comparison to common online training, or the training that's used most commonly today. If you look at the programs and the outcomes, the current programs for online training are you register, you train, you test, and the box is checked that you've been trained. With the Epigeum Impact Program, you will register, we will collect demographics, we'll do some pre-course gathering of information, the training will come. Within the training there are climate surveys, we then do post-course assessment, certifications, and actually do some assessment 6 months out. And the outcome is information on certification, learner background, learner experience, institutional climate, and all of this data is benchmarked by or can be searched by department and unit, and Brian will explain a little bit more about that. But you'll be able to dig down to the level of individual departments, compare them with your institution, and then benchmark them across other institutions that are participating in the Epigeum program. So you can see in this that we have a very, very different objective in this new RCR program. So as an overview, the material is probably something you're familiar with, although we're adding one thing that's important at this time. We previously launched a full course on research integrity. It had 5 tracks and 5 modules, and it takes roughly about 5 hours to take. And we're now creating a second course, a short course, which will be a single course, which will take about 45 minutes to go through and have 7 mini courses attached to it. And I'll give you a little bit more on that later. But the purpose here is the full course is designed for beginning students, beginning graduate students, new researchers. The short course is designed for experienced staff and experienced researchers. And all of these will come packaged with a human subjects protection course that we also have as part of our RCR package. So if you haven't seen them, the Epigeum courses are designed to be interactive and engaging. Our pages look like perhaps other pages. There's headings on them, there's a left-hand navigation bar, there's information, but then we do a variety of things to try to make these courses interactive. So they almost always begin with a screen challenge. If you had to list one primary responsibility you have as a researcher, what would it be? And then the course picks up on that and leads you into whatever the topic is that's being discussed at that time. There are videos with feedback from students and faculty on key issues. There are interactive activities where you learn by either matching or answering questions or pursuing a scenario and so on. We provide a lot of your context information to link you to local content. And then we also have spread throughout the courses poll questions that let you see what others are thinking in comparison to what you're thinking about important research integrity topics. So how often do your colleagues follow these 4 key principles in practice? What do you think about your colleagues? And that's one of a series of questions that we go through. So the full RCR course has 5 modules: Introduction, Planning, Conducting, Reporting, and Responsibilities to Society, and it has 5 tracks: Arts, Biomedical, Engineering, Natural, and Social. And this course has been available for a couple of years now. It will now be remodified with the impact system in it. The short course has also got 5 modules to it: Planning, Regulation, Conducting, Sharing, and Publishing, and Professional Responsibilities. Those modules are a lot shorter and a lot easier to get through than the ones in the full course. And then those are the 7 mini courses that we will provide: Human Subjects, Animals, Conflicts of Interest, Export Control, Safety, Biohazard Safety, and Intellectual Property. The mini courses are probably 10 to 15 minutes, depending on whether you look at all the case studies or not, but they're much shorter than the regular course. And both the full course and the impact system, the full course and the short course will have the impact system in it. And that impact system consists of registration process, gathering background data, gathering pre-course information, climate information post-course, and then a 6-month assessment. And what I have here are just a few examples. I can provide more information later during the Q&A if anyone is interested. So the welcome, the registration starts with a welcome. We ask for permission to collect so that we're not collecting any data without permission. And then we collect email, name, university, unit, department, and some demographic information. The only thing we ever report, though, with personal identifying information attached are the certification scores. And we have to report that so you know whether people pass the course and that. All other information collected is then de-identified, and that's the only way that we share it, and we share it only in select ways. The demographic information asks for your role at the university, gender, employment status, years at the university, highest degree, and what is your main specialism or field of knowledge. These items are, they will be launched in January. We will go through a testing phase over 2 months, and then we'll finalize the program in over April and May for launch, full launch in the fall of 2016. Anyone who joins this effort over the next month or 2 has an opportunity to provide input at the planning stages. As I said, all data sharing is anonymous except for the test scores. The pre-course learning expectations, these vary, but we collect information as to why you're taking this course. What's your motivation, so that we get a better idea of who's taking the courses and can match this with the post-course. And there are 5 pre-course areas that will be surveyed in this way. And then the rest of the material in the research integrity course is actually embedded in the course. It isn't a separate survey that you take, but throughout the course there are questions that embed it. So at one point we ask within the course how confident you are that you understand your responsibilities for the question I put in at the beginning. But rather than doing this as just an abstract survey or a detached survey, it's actually embedded in the course when we start talking about the importance of training and understanding your responsibility. And there are similar capability questions spread throughout the RCR course. We also embed climate questions, such as how well are best practices defined in your field of research? When best practices are well defined, how often do you follow them? How often do your colleagues follow them? And this again is embedded where we talk about best practices. How often do you follow the following conducting research? Plans, protocols, institutional approvals, professional agreements. How important are the following sources of pressure? How does the pressure impact you? So what we're trying to do is to build up a profile of your research community at the same time that we're training your research community. And then there will be the additional assessments, the certification of knowledge. We will put in a few competency questions, and then we'll do some satisfaction assessment. 6 months out, we'll also come back and add some other questions as to what impact this training is having on you. And our long-term goal is to do what's called a 360 or a self-assessment process for researchers to assess how well they're doing. The certification system, just to give you some idea as to what's different about the Epigeum certification system, is that it's based on a series of rubrics or topics that we feel that it's important to cover. And so what I have here is a list of the opening rubrics for the opening module of the certification course. There are in this, the short course, a total of 51 areas that we're going to test on, and a total of 56 questions that will be asked about these areas. Excuse me. So the process is not a haphazard one. It's a very carefully constructed certification process. And the certification questions are also organized around this rubric. So what you see here are the 4 certification questions that will be asked for the rubric in Module 2, Screen 4, Agreements, Sharing Data. So when you come back and retake the test, if you have to do it, it's drawn from a bank of questions and not just one set of questions. And you see there that we use multiple choice, true, false, and a few multiple choice questions as we go through. So with that, I will stop. I mean, that's a very brief introduction. I could provide a lot more information. I can give you examples of some of the courses, but let me stop here and turn it over to Brian, who'll give you a little bit about how you get feedback and other information.
So I'm just going to go straight in and do a little bit of a demo of a very early version of the Impact program. So I'm showing you really the first release of this. The full release won't be until January, so please note that this is quite early and really only demo materials. So there are 4 major components to the Impact program. Well, the 5 actually. The first is the publishing itself, so the course. So Nick Steneck is writing for us the short RCR course, and that's the first course we're including an Impact system with. The other 4 components are that the survey design in itself, and Nick has just shown you some of the rigor behind the way that we're constructing the surveys, just so that you know the way that we work and the way that we're working on Impact is that we work with groups of universities, what we call development groups, who work together with us in order to review each stage of what we're publishing. That's also happened with the Impact program. So we have a set of surveys embedded into the courses, and all of the universities in the development group are working with us to review. So we work together with the universities, and currently we have about 25 universities in the RCR development group, and we're already starting a feedback phase in terms of the survey items. And as Nick said earlier, universities that join up can be part of that review process. So the survey design is, I think, personally the most important part. Then within the system we have embedding of survey items. Nick's talked about that already. The other major components are the reporting piece and the benchmarking. And what I'll do is I'll show you these pieces now. So firstly, this is a mock-up of the RCR course. And as you can see on this side, on the left-hand side, we have a standard navigation. This just shows one part of the course. And as I scroll down, you can see part of this is actually course material, and then eventually I come across a survey item. Note this is the same one that Nick showed earlier. So how confident are you that all of the research you have published is based on reliable evidence? So a user, a participant, would go through and quite simply select answers. And then one of the features that we're including in order to make sure that people are motivated in order to actually take part in the surveys is that we're including this benchmarking data. So users will be able to see what the global aggregate of data that's sitting in the system is, only if they actually take part in the survey. So if they actually take part, they can then see how many people have actually answered, and two, what the standard and benchmarking of that and answers are. Note this is all dummy data. There's no real data in here at this stage. So that's for the user. For the administration group at the university, another thing that Nick mentioned earlier is that we provide filters. So you will be able to add in any filters that you like, essentially. What we do, the way we do this, is we ask you to fill in the details of how you'd like to filter before we release the system to you. So you can then filter across departments, you can filter in units. And in one university, Nick and I were in last week, somebody mentioned that they had something like 76 departments. Really not a problem. As long as you supply us with that data, you can do filters on that basis. The other filters that we preset include the type of measurement that we're looking at. So here you can see we will be measuring for motivation post-training, capabilities, learning climates, research climates, etc. It depends on each course that we're working on has a different set of measurements. We also have courses, so these are the courses within RCR. We can filter across these, and then within that also modules. So that's the reporting, the filtering. The next thing that I'll show you very briefly is just a very early version of some of the data reporting that we'll supply. So this is an answer to a question. Notice that here we have your data, the institution's data, and as Nick mentioned earlier, at this stage all of the data is de-identified. So you'll never see behind this who the individual students are. But this just gives you an idea of the climates in your institution, or indeed gives you a profile, as Nick mentioned, of the type of researchers you have. And note that over here we also give that global data. The idea behind this is that you'll be able to do some rough benchmarking against global standards as they are appearing as we gather more and more data within the system. So also showing here a similar type, we're not sure what type of reporting visualizations we're going to use yet, and we're still experimenting with that. But this is another type that we could run, and part of the reviewing process with universities is that we're asking them to tell us what type of reports and what type of visualizations are best for them. So that, in very quickly, is just a quick demonstration again of the design, the embedding, the reporting and benchmarking. As Nick said, the plan is that we will be pre-testing the whole system, all of the items, the whole package essentially, from January onwards. So we're about to release the first prototypes and the first courses at that point. And at that point, I think I will leave it. Hopefully, you have a few questions for us so that we can and then have a quick discussion.
Well, I don't think we have any questions at this point. If you can't think of anything to ask at this right now, you could always email us afterwards. I'll put up my colleague's contact details now, who you can contact. So that's Fran Amal. So you may have already been in touch with her in regards to this collaboration. So that's her email address and her phone number. She can give you a bit more detail in regards to pricing and timescales for the collaboration. So please do contact her if you have any questions regarding the collaboration. She'll also be able to provide you with a trial for one of our courses if you'd like to get a feel for how they look and function. And we'll also send out a recording of this presentation to you so you can share it with the relevant colleagues who may find this of interest to them as well. So thank you very much for attending this webinar. I hope you have a nice rest of the day, and we look forward to hearing from you.